Tal, welcome to the Weekly Squeeze. I'm so glad that you were spontaneous. I'm so glad that you were spontaneous enough to do this on the fly with me. But yeah, we met the other week, and I was like, that guy looks interesting, so we're gonna have him on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. So I'm looking at your Instagram page, and honestly, the first thing I am trying to figure out is where you're from. I see you have a 305 phone number, so that tells me Florida, where I'm from. But other than that, I cannot identify you. I don't know if you're Indian. I don't know if you're Iraqi. I don't know if you're from California. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So,
And
contrary to popular belief, I'm not Indian. I know I look very Indian, but I'm not.
I thought I
I'm.
thought Indian. I did.
I was born in Miami in South Florida and raised sort of partly between Israel and the U.S. We sort of been bouncing back and forth our whole lives. My actual ethnic background, like my grandparents on my mom's side, are Kurdish and Baghdadi Jews,
Oh, so there we go. You're
and
not from
that's
Warsaw. You're not from Poland.
no, not a white colonizer, unfortunately. Or yes, I mean, 2023, I became a white colonizer, so I don't know.
Right.
And then my dad's side were this cool ethnic group called Nashdidan, which they're Jews from the Caucasus Mountain region. They were kind of like Bedouins, very nomadic, and then Turkish Ladino. So I'm fully Mizrahi all the way across the board. Um,
You're a
and now I
man.
live here in
Yeah,
Israel.
you're from all over the place, and which is
Yeah,
probably why you like to go all over the place. People
true.
must love you wherever you are. You remind me of my husband. Whenever you ask my husband where he's from, it depends where you're from. So if you're from America, he'll tell you the five towns for Rockaway. If you're from, Israel, he'll be like, Drom Tel Aviv or Kiryat Sefer. It depends. But you have a lot of roots.
I have the privilege of being very ethnically ambiguous, and because I've been traveling the world the last couple of years, I also am like culturally ambiguous at this point. I can fit in with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, so it's really a blessing. Like nobody can really tell where I'm from on first impact when they first talk to me,
Or what you believe.
or
Because
what I believe. Yes,
right. If you put a
true.
keffiyeh around your shoulders, I am not going to want to meet you in a dark alley.
No one would have had any. I've traveled also to Ramallah. I've been to Nablus. I've been to Palestinian refugee camps in the West Bank, and I snuck in like as a. I pretended to be an Indian. At some points, I pretended to be an Iraqi, and nobody could guess. Nobody knew.
So tell us everything. Tell us how you got from Miami Beach, where I was born and raised, to the midst or the center of the universe right now during this very holy and important war that we're fighting. And I say it all the time. Everyone involved in this is on the front lines. We're just on the front lines in different ways, but we're
Right,
all fully engaged, taking so much crap, like barely holding on, but we're fighting for our lives.
right.
So I see
I,
that. Yeah, I see that from what you're doing. So tell us how you got here.
so I've been traveling the world the last 10 years as a travel blogger on my YouTube channel, The Traveling Clatt. I was living a happy-go-lucky life, traveling around a bunch of countries. I visited 64 countries up until October 7th.
Name a
Um,
few. Name a few, if you
so
will.
my
Maybe
favorites
I've
being
been there.
Sri Lanka,
Nope.
Japan.
Nope.
I've done most of Europe, like
Nice.
the Balkan region, Serbia, Macedonia, all over. I've been all over the world.
China.
I've been to Hong Kong, Macau,
All
and
right, close
Taiwan.
enough.
So
I was in
yeah,
China. Alaska.
yeah. Alaska never. No,
All right.
Hawaii I did.
Oh, I was in Hawaii too. Cool. All
Yeah,
right, fine. But you've definitely out traveled me. Yeah. So you're traveling the world, and I have a lot to say about travelers because travelers are interesting people.
yeah.
They're very complicated. I think that travelers they spend a lot of time alone, and
True.
and being with people from other cultures really puts your whole life into perspective. So I imagine you're a man who does a lot of thinking and contemplating about the purpose of life. So yeah, tell me about your
Yeah, it's
journeys.
actually a pretty good summary of like what Okay, once you start traveling, like your world becomes so much more wide. Like if you're born and you live your whole life in one place in one culture, you sort of in this narrow field of view. But when you go and you start living in other countries too, especially countries that have nothing to do with your culture, like your worldview expands to like this. That's why also I really feel like I'm a powerful voice in this Hasbara slash Israel advocacy place because I come from it from a perspective of somebody who's seen the world and interacted with a lot of people, some of which or a lot of which are criticizing Israel. But yeah, I was traveling the world for 10 years. I had just finished building a house on a small island in the Philippines and setting up a Chabad community there. I was sort of like an impromptu rabbi during the pandemic, and I managed to pull some strings and make it happen. So a bit Chabad was set up on this little island.
Kol hakavod.
Um,
There's a shliach.
and
There's a shliach in every Sephardi Jew.
Yeah, I've got honorary shaliach status at this point with Chabad, which I'm very proud of. I wear it on my shoulder like a badge of honor. And once the war started, I was out there on this island, not really knowing what to do, flailing. I On the first week, I was like probably October 9th or 10th, I had made my first Hasbara video without even really knowing what I was doing. I just felt like I needed to use my platform to speak up. And I made a video that sort of took off in Israel and around the world. I started very Arabic sounding. I came to the camera and I said "Assalamu alaikum" in a very Arabic accent and started reading off all the names of the Arabs slash Palestinians that Hamas killed on October 7th, which nobody had really been talking about. I mean, we knew, but nobody really publicly,
You're
especially
talking
not a
about
Jew.
Israeli Arabs that live here in Israel
Israeli Arabs, yeah, that were murdered by Hamas on the 7th.
with the same in the
And
same violent, cruel way for no reason, just a complete lack of
100%.
disregard for humanity.
Yeah. I even made another video calling out or honoring this wonderful man named Awad Daraushi, who was a paramedic in the Nova Music Festival, 23 years old, I believe. An Arab citizen of southern Israel. He escaped the festival, uh, didn't know what to do, called his brother Muhammad, was on the phone with him and told him, I'm going back in to try to negotiate with Hamas because I speak Arabic to try to save more lives. Went in and he was massacred as well. He's in the Nova Music Festival. I made a few pieces of content about him.
Why did you choose
And
to start with that? Go in that direction because of the way you
so
look, because of the fact that you have the language.
2 years ago, I made a really big series on YouTube, sort of investigating the Israel-Palestine conflict. I traveled to the West Bank. I was in Ramallah and Nablus. I got close to a lot of Palestinians. I made friends with a lot of Palestinians. I was in a way more peaceful mindset back then.
Right. So
So
this
when the
starts off with
seventh,
you being very surprised on October 7th because it was a personal disappointment.
it wasn't surprised. I mean, it's not something I couldn't have expected. I was just heartbroken because like
Heartbroken.
all the effort that I put in to make friends with these people, and I really came with the best intentions. And then I just slowly started seeing this world ripping apart. Palestinian friends of mine cursing me out, disconnecting from me for standing up for Israel after we had just endured the worst massacre since the Holocaust. And I was just sort of like thrown in this loop of like, I need to do something powerful, and nobody's talking about this. I need to be the one to call this out because it's important as well, and it serves a point. It serves a purpose. Um, and people, it really resonated with a lot of people. I got a couple 100,000 views. It started getting reposted all over the world, and that was like the beginning of the Hasbara journey. I then took a conscious decision to say, Tal, don't get into this because this has the opportunity to ruin your life. Like, you want to travel the world, you want to keep going to Arab countries, you want to go all over the world, you want to fly wherever you want without having to think about it. I've never talked about Hasbara up until this point. There's no point in digging into it. The war will be over soon. I pushed it off. I totally did.
What were
I didn't
your
think it was
what were your hesitations based on? Like what was your fear?
that I travel the world. You know, sometimes you take a layover in Dubai. You never know. People, there's people from Iran in Dubai, people from
You thought you would
Afghanistan in the
become a
airport.
target of the
I
anti
knew
right.
I knew I'd become a target,
Okay,
and
right.
that it's because
Are
I've
you a
already
target?
been 100% now. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, though that Pandora's box is open and I can't shut it anymore. Um, but yeah, like even before the little that I've talked about Israel put me as a target. Like after I left Ramallah and Nablus, people messaged me once they found out I was Israeli, telling if you ever come back to the city again, we'll murder you. You know, we'll kill you outright. Don't ever step foot here again, just for being Israeli. Not that I did anything negative when I was there.
And for caring
Um,
about Palestinian lives. Like you literally said that was your first post.
yeah, and I tried to platform Palestinian voices as well at some points. You know, people who identify as Palestinian was important to me. And I don't come at it from this like a left or liberal perspective of kumbaya. I realize the dangers. That was never my perspective. Even it's funny, my community back home, everybody thought I was turning into like a far leftist who is all about Palestinian rights and this and that. Like, listen, I know exactly who I'm dealing with, and I know the culture behind Palestinianism and Arabism. I always did. I just saw a little bit more of a hope and a future in trying to understand their side at that particular time. Once October 7th happened and I posted those two videos, I decided I was going to remain quiet until the war was over. And it just kept dragging on. The war was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I just felt I felt more boxed in the Philippines where I was at the time, and I just said, like I can't do this anymore. I have to do something. I have to make a change. I have to speak up. You know, my friends are out In Gaza, some are in the north. Everybody's in the army. I'm sitting here like a jackass in the Philippines, not knowing what to do. Um, so I packed up all my stuff. I gave my motorcycle to the Beit Chabad. I locked everything up, and I flew to Israel at the end of January to pursue a career in Hasbara and pro-Israel advocacy. And I just went, for lack of better terms, balls to the wall. The second I arrived, it was just like
Hit the ground running.
heavy, hit the ground running, traveled all over the country, north, south, east, west. I was everywhere. Jerusalem in the north with Hezbollah, in
Well,
Sderot,
there's
in
no
the Gaza
shortage
Strip
of things
border.
to do here. There's no shortage of what to do here. I mean, everybody is engaged in this war. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a war is not like this is not a political war. This is an actual physical war. People
yeah.
die every single day here because of this war. People are killed in the most horrific ways. We're traumatized over and over all over the Middle East because of actual war. I don't think people living abroad understand what it means to live in that environment where soldiers die and they're your neighbors, and funerals are just another thing that we're doing this week. This is a terrifying, horrifying war, and on top of it, we're expected to carry the sorrows of the Palestinian people who did this to themselves.
Yeah, it's you see this wave of people speaking out of their backside because they don't have any on the ground experience with this. Like that was always my biggest thing when people would gaslight me in the beginning of the war. I had followers from all over the world who had been following my journey for the last 10 years. People who are on the left side, the right side, whatever. And people didn't enjoy me speaking up. They were like, "You've become violent, you've become racist, you've become radical." I was like, just because I've shut my mouth about the atrocities that we've been dealing with for the last 10 years of my career doesn't mean I wasn't dealing with this stuff in silence. I very much was. Like, you think during the war in 2021, during the pandemic, I didn't want to post every day and call everything out? I didn't, because I had a career, and I thought about my career first and I saw an end. But I don't know, something felt different about this war. And it felt to me like things were unraveling that weren't going to be able to be put back in the box. And I just said, it's time. Like, it's time for Tal to step
Yeah,
up
when
to the
there's
plate.
no man in the room, you got to be the man. So I find the same thing. I really resist from engaging with haters and anti-Semites on Twitter and social media because that never ends. Like you can do that 24
Yeah.
hours a day and you'll still never get anywhere. And there's still going to be someone else throwing out something obscure, ridiculous, obscene, shocking, just to hurt us. Literally just to hurt us. So that never ends. But who's going to do it if not us? It's hard not to feel guilty. Like every single
Yep.
person. Luckily, we have quality against quantity because we're amazing people. So one of us can handle 1,000 trolls, if not more. And the right video can go viral and affect a lot of people. And there's amazing people in the Hasbara community. But yeah, I understand that feeling that you had. That I have no choice but to fight back for Israel.
Yeah, it was really shocking to me to have like people of color in my DMs who I'd connected with, who I guess in my line of work had considered me a person of color. I never go with those labels because I just kind of reject the colorism identity stuff that we subscribe to in the West. But like I got those labels from those people. And all of a sudden overnight I became a white colonizer. I was told to go back to Europe. I became genocidal and I became a Nazi. And I was like, my family was ethnically cleansed from Iraq by actual Nazis. Like actually it was inspired by the Nazis, the Farhud in 1941. And then all of a sudden this stuff was getting flipped on me. And I just honestly I didn't see enough Mizrahi voices speaking up. I didn't see enough brown Jews at the forefront of it. And I said, F it. I'm going in. Like, I'm going into the trenches. When Macklemore made his stupid song, whatever the heck it was called, I don't remember. It was just like that was the thing that broke the camel's back for me. I was like, I am going to call this, I'm going to rip this guy to shreds. And I did exactly that. And that video blew up. It was just short of 1 million views on
Nice,
Instagram.
good for you. Mm.
And it's what really sort of got the spark rolling. And I realized, like, there is a real niche for me right now and a place for me where people want to hear somebody of my background, my color skin, my family story talking about this stuff, opening this up. And I always treat it as if my ethnic ambiguity and my family story is literally the trump card to the pro-Palestine's stupid
I
arguments.
know, but that was my next question. Are you making a difference? Are people listening? Are you swaying opinion? Is it effectual? I have this argument with my peers all the time in the Intel and Hasbara community. Is social media making an impact? Is it reaching the audience we really think it is? What are the, nobody's really sat down to study the numbers and to,
Right.
so how do you see that you're making an impact?
It's impossible to like gauge if the numbers are making an impact. So this is the way that I break it down, because I've also been very passionate about this for years. I always felt like Hasbara, we're preaching to our own choir. You're speaking to your own echo chamber. The people, it's, you can see it in the comments. People watching Hasbara videos are usually people who are supporting Israel, so it's reaching the wrong communities and vice versa on their side. What I realized was, by speaking to Arab friends of mine, everybody considers me Arab. So if you don't know who I am going in, and I can be very tricky in the videos, especially in the beginning. I'll trick you and I'll bait you into thinking that I'm something that I'm not. And I go very, very, very cleverly and very aggressive in their way. I am a very strong believer of this concept of we're in the Middle East, let's be Middle Eastern. I grew up in a very Iraqi family, very Middle Eastern,
Yeah,
cursing,
I
plates
see here
flying, yelling.
a message to the people of Lebanon. Seriously? You have a message that's brave.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and I got shit for it from Lebanese people, but also in secrecy, there are thousands of Arabs and Muslims that have reached out to me from all over the world in my Discord community, like that I've built. I have consistent users from Jordan, from Egypt, from Lebanon, from Syria, from Iraq, who love Israel. They can't obviously be public about it, but they're with me from Bangladesh. I've had Muslims and Arabs from all over the world reach out to me in support, wanting to know what they can do to help. And I'm building a community to empower people and to help them empower themselves to not be in this monolith. Like I feel like if you're a Muslim, a lot of the times you have to just be in this zombie mode of I support Palestine because I'm Muslim. You can't think for yourself. I'm trying to implore these people to think for themselves because of how I look, because of how I
I
talk.
know, but it's so difficult. A guy like Hamza, for example, with the red glasses, like he doesn't want to hear anything from you. Like, would you take the time to have a conversation with a guy like that?
100% I would. Yeah,
He's
but I'd be
he's
very mean
living
to
in
him.
La La Land.
I
Yes,
know, but I
because he
would
has the
be
most slappable face on the internet.
but it's beyond that. Is like Arabs, to ask any Arab, they'll tell you the same thing. Ask our Druze friends in Israel. They will tell you the same thing. They tell us we're too soft. And I agree with this. Culturally, we're too soft. And again, I didn't grow up in that culture. Like I grew up in the exact opposite. I grew up with people being excessively mean and aggressive to me and my family, because that's how we are. Like we're super aggressive and mean to each other. And if you don't understand that culture, it'll chew you up and spit you out. But an Arab requires an Arab to speak to them at face level. So fine, I don't consider myself Arab, but you do. Let me break everything you believe in. Let me speak to you the way that an Arab speaks to an Arab. Let me treat you the way that an Arab treats an Arab. I don't want to treat you the way an Israeli or a Jew treats an Arab, because it's too
Or a
soft.
Westerner.
Yeah. Who
Right.
who am I to think that I'm above you? No, no, no. I'm bringing myself to your level. I'm traveling down to you
So
and
what
I'm
is the
staying on your
argument
level.
you make there? Because they are allowed to lie, they're allowed to kill, they believe in a vengeful and murderous God, and they do terrible things to their people and to children, and they have very low values if you want to compare it to the totem pole of values across the universe. No, I don't mean to I'm not a racist. It's just these are the facts. They're my neighbors. I know what
Well,
they
first, you
teach their
can't be racist
children.
against Arabs. That's something I'm also calling out. You can't be racist against Arabs because they're not a race of people, And I am one of those people who breaks that. Everybody would consider me an Arab until they don't consider me an Arab.
So you don't
So it's like
believe in
we're
Islamophobia,
no, you can't. I mean, I guess you can be afraid of Islam.
right? As a phobia, not as a fear, because you can't fear Islam because they
I take it more from the perspective of Arabs and Arabism, because we have, and this is the best example that I give. I'm going to give you a pop quiz real quick, and it's not a trick question. You answer it honestly, and I know that you're probably going to know the answer. From California to Florida, most people speak English. The predominant religion is Christianity. What is that a product of?
what is that a product of?
Yeah,
Colonization.
amazing, beautiful. You're on the money. Same thing, South America, right? We look from, let's begin in Mexico, even though it's still North America, but let's just go South America, Mexico to Argentina. Everybody speaks Spanish, majority speaks Spanish, majority practice Catholicism. That's a product of,
Colonization.
okay, beautiful. Let's go from Morocco to Iran. Majority of the script is Arabic, most of the people practicing Islam. There's like almost 400 million people in North America. almost 400 million people in South America, almost 400 million people in the Arab world, or over 400 million in the Arab world. What do we call that?
Colonization. What do I win?
But but why does you win nothing? You win racism is what you win. That's the one thing that I always try to call out. Now the thing is, if you want to ignore what I'm saying and latch on to your racist, supremacist mindset, I can't help you. At a certain point, there's a block. But what I can do is attempt to wake people up. And I host a show where 2 times a week people call in. And I have Arabs who call in from all over the world. I've had Iraqi Arabs, and I had the privilege, the schut of speaking to an Iraqi kid on the phone who called in saying, "This is Arab land and we're all Arabs." I was the first person in his life to ever tell him, "Iraqis are not Arabs. What are you on about? Iraqis are not Arab people. They
Iranians
may
are
have
also
a
not Arabs.
they're not Arabs. None of the people in the Arab world are Arabs besides a very small group in the Hijaz. The Haliji people are the only true Arabs
Well, my
that
issue is not with
exist.
Arabs. My issue is with Islamists and who are radical and kill
The
people.
problem is those come hand in hand. The concept of Arabism and Islamism, they travel together. And anybody who tries to separate them is just being you're being facetious to the cause of what they're trying to accomplish. Because yeah, in Pakistan, for example, they won't call themselves Arabs, but they adopt all the cultural practices, all the harshness of the worst of Arabism, and they bring that there. Same in Iran, in the Islamic regime.
And all across
So
Africa.
and all across Africa. So what the almost 600,000 people that have been murdered in Somalia in the civil war, they're all of a sudden, are they Arabs or are they not Arabs? Are they Muslims or are they not Muslims when it works for your worldview? Like what happens there? Are they black? Are they Arabs? Are they Abid? What are they? And these are questions that I try to bring up, and I try to do it in a way that is very rude and very
So,
aggressive
what
and very
epiphanies have they
condescending.
had? What epiphanies have they had? Give us an example of a conversation you might have had with someone who's like, the Israeli people stole my grandfather's village.
So there was a conversation I had. Actually, a guy who calls into my show quite frequently now. We've become friendly. But when he first called in, he's a Lebanese Christian. He used to come in and curse me out. You Zionists are the worst. You guys are killing everybody. You're racist. You're this and that. And I'd come back at him twice as hard. I'd come back at him as hard as possible. I tell him, you guys are cowards. Lebanese Christians are the worst. I would speak to him the same way that he's speaking to me. And eventually he saw this thing of, I'm not backing off. He started listening. He actually started opening his ears. And I told him, I was like, you Lebanese Christians, you allowed your country to be destroyed by Islamism.
Right.
You guys were the Europe of the Middle
Yeah,
East at
and
one
they're
point.
taken over by jihadis. That's it.
And you allowed it to happen. And now look at you. You guys live in the West, you live there, and you suffer, and you're watching your country slip away from you faster than you realize. Stand up, have a backbone. And now he's become an integral
Take
part of
some
my community.
responsibility. Take some responsibility. There's no responsibility.
I have a voice recording of this dude of last week saying, I actually love the Zionists and I want to come visit Israel. But it's a process of months. And I really think you have to be a psychopath like me to be able to be engaged in this fight for so long. You need to be crazy about
Well,
it.
you really have to believe in Zionism and in Israel and in the truth. So for me, it's very
It's
black and white and clear and easy to fight for. But for someone who doesn't know the information or is not prepared properly, then it's intimidating.
It's true. And I think that like it's my job right now where I see myself fitting into the picture of all this is I need to use my family's experience and the history of my family to educate people on both sides. So like our Am Yisrael that follows me, which there's a lot who love me and support my work. It's also important for me to empower the random Ashki kid who lives in New England, he doesn't know shit about Mizrahi Jews, to empower him about all the massacres that Jews in the Arab world have been through. And I'm not talking about in the last 100 years. I'm talking about the last 600, last 1,000 years, where everybody always claimed we lived in peace. That's part of my job. My other job is branching out to the other side and speaking to them extremely aggressively. I'm done with the PC stuff. I'm done with the safe for work tall. I'm done with the happy go lucky. The most beautiful quote I've seen on Instagram since the beginning of this war is, "You've killed all the nice Jews. We're what's left." And I could not agree with that more.
Yeah.
I resonate with that so much. Zell, there's no more nice Jews.
Yeah. You have to take our. We're
You
taking our gloves off. Yeah,
That's it. I don't want to
we
be
don't have a
nice to you. I'm not
choice.
gonna
Yeah.
fight you.
Right.
I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna be physically aggressive to you. I didn't serve in the army. I'm not a soldier. I don't know how to kill somebody. I don't know how to fight somebody. But I will be mean to you. I will be aggressively mean to you. I will be intelligently mean to you. I will destroy your character up and down the way that nobody's done before because it's required now. I need to do this for you, and I'm doing it out of love, not because I hate you, because I love you, because I actually want to help you. I want to watch you grow. I want to see the Arab world grow. I want to see this part of the world. I have nothing but love for these people. I want to see them grow and branch out of this, but I also want them to, I want to see them remove this husk, this shell of Arabism from their shoulders and start reclaiming their actual culture. It's my biggest passion now.
I think you're more compassionate than I am. Like, you love these guys. I mean, they're extremely, extremely dangerous. They're responsible for. They're spinning the narrative on everything that's going on around the world. They're the catalyst of so much violence. So, how do you find space in your heart to love them?
I'm not going to say that I have love for the jihadis who are like out there murdering
No, not
everybody,
the
but
jihadis, but even the college students, even the people on
because
Twitter.
they're just dumb. They're just dumb. And the thing is, I have love for stupid people in my heart. There's a lot of stupid people around the world. I don't say this in a condescending way, but like I've traveled the world for 10 years. I've been to a lot of countries. You realize after a certain while, like the mass majority of planet Earth is not dumb, but they're definitely
Underinformed.
not. Yeah, they're definitely not intelligent, and that doesn't mean that they're bad people. They're capable of being intelligent. They're capable of the greatest things possible. But a lot of people don't apply themselves. They don't have an opportunity to apply themselves. So here I have the opportunity to show them love and compassion and slap them up the face, up and down, and show them, hey, here's the truth.
The real
Like
Sephardi way. You take off your cuff, your flip flop, and you beat the crap out of your kid and say,
exactly.
"Ani
My
ohevet otcha."
my first video that took off, I made that exact threat. I said that my grandma was gonna come slap Macklemore with her flip flops. That's a
Ah.
that's a reality. We have a way of we live in the Middle East. Let's be Middle Eastern. Let's not escape our actual roots. Let's stop being European and democratic about everything. No, there's a time and peace. There's a time and place for peace. There's a time and place for war.
So
We're at
carry
war
carry a
now.
weapon, love in your heart, carry a weapon. I listen, I've said it before, the IDF is not fighting, God forbid, because we enjoy killing people. It's the worst feeling in the world. It's a burden that a human has to bear no matter what they're fighting for. At least normal people. But we're fighting to preserve humanity. It's a holy job. It's a virtuous war. It's not violence for the sake of violence. It's a pity that we have to be engaged in this. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I couldn't agree more. And it's I really feel like we've set ourselves back and them back and the whole world back. A couple centuries, it feels like. I mean, I feel like if it was more accepted or they had access to more Jews, there would be Jews burning by the stake right now and across the Arab world, if they had access to us.
Right. We're just fighting hard enough. We're
Yeah.
luckily, yeah, we're not letting ourselves be the victims that our grandparents did. Unfortunately, I'm not blaming them, but we're stronger now and we have more voices and we're using it. We're using social media and we're using all the tools that we have and we're engaged and galvanized and yeah, we make a great unit. I saw at the Nefesh B'Nefesh thing. I'm like, these are cool people. They're all doing cool things. Kol hakavod, really. We need every voice in every arena. So thank you for being you. Where can people
Thank
find
you.
you? Where can people find you?
Everywhere on the internet at the traveling Clatt.
Nice. All right. We'll put the links in the show notes. Well, thank you for being here and keep up the good
Thanks for
fight.
having me.
Bye.